If you're wanting to know more about what it takes to relocate with your family and focus on the education needs of your children, then this is going to be a fantastic video for you. Hi everyone, Ugo Arinzeh here with Onyx Property Team. I can't wait to dive into this video where we're really going to get granular and talk to one of our expert partners, which is to talk about the relocation needs on the education side. If you are a family who's coming over or thinking about sending your children and not coming over, what are the things you're going to need to know in terms of making that journey and following that process? So I am excited about this interview, and I've got Mark Brooks of Mark Brooks Education. Thank you, Mark, for sitting with me with Onyx Property Team and talking about this subject that you know so well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite, and it's great to see you again after such a brilliant day yesterday as well.
Yeah, the timing couldn't be more special. Yesterday, Mark had a fantastic education summit, I would call it, where you featured over almost a dozen schools, boarding schools, private schools for the international community, and you kindly had me on as a panel speaker talking about the real estate need, but bringing really a holistic services in terms of some of the partners you work with. So it was a great day, and it sounds like you really are so keen to bring all of what the parents will need when they're thinking about moving to London.
It was a great day, and we're excited that it was in association with the UK's Department for Business and Trade.
Right.
And we had the head of international education speak and giving the opening address, and she gave fantastic feedback at the end as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it was a great day. Well, before we dive in, we can get more specific into that. Tell us a little bit about you, Mark Brooks Education, and kind of where you saw the need in terms of setting up.
It's almost a calling as well as a need. I spent 20-something years in education as a marketing director with boarding schools, some very well-known schools. Did that for 4 or 5 years, and then managed the admissions process for the families and helped them to join these schools and involved in the marketing. So I know boarding schools inside out.
Right, different aspects of it. That's great.
And at the same time, I did an MBA, which focused on how parents choose an independent school. So I have a qualification in what I do as well.
Is that right? I didn't know if there was a qualification in that. So wow, that's great.
Yes, that was a theme of my final dissertation, which was sponsored by the Independent Schools Council as well. And since then, I've been working with families directly for 15 years from all across the world, but primarily from West Africa is my main area that I focus on.
And where did you see that need, or where did you kind of identify the need to have that consultant in place to facilitate that admissions selection and submission process?
It came by accident, really, because I was meeting lots of families as I was going to Nigeria and doing work and recruiting heads for schools in Nigeria. And I'd meet lots of parents and they'd say, "Can you tell me about the boarding schools? You seem to know every school in the UK and have worked with them and visited them." And I helped them on that, and then ended up with more and more families telling their friends about me, and ended up focusing 100% on that.
Amazing. Now, just to give the audience a sense, how early can you send a child to boarding school, and what should parents be thinking about?
You can send them quite young, but normally they might send a child to boarding school from the age of 11.
Okay.
And it goes up to 18 or 19 as well. So there are prep schools which take children a little bit younger than that. And they would be useful if a child was ambitious to go to one of the leading public schools, such as Harrow, Eton, Wellington or Wickham Abbey. Then you might need to go to prep school in the UK for a little bit longer and a little bit younger.
Okay, amazing. Now, in terms of then, what does you said you focus on primarily, you focus on West African families, and for them, are there special considerations, or tell me about that international family that is thinking about that boarding school or sending their child abroad? What is usually driving that, and where do you think the UK, in terms of its offerings, really excels?
I guess there's two answers to that. Firstly, the answer is, why are West African families looking at UK boarding schools? Now, the education is great in West Africa and Nigeria, and there's some fantastic schools, but sometimes families are looking for more of an international mix of students. and a kind of smooth segue into British universities or American universities, which is why they're looking at the UK. And funnily enough, a lot of Nigerian families have been educated in the UK anyway, and had a fantastic, had a fantastic experience, and they want their children to benefit from that as well. The second reason parents choose UK boarding schools is they're not just academically top-notch, but also they have opportunities for children to explore their potential in terms of sport, art, drama, music, and their creativity and leadership experience as well.
We heard about a school yesterday that is heavily focused on maths and sciences, and
Yes.
they talked about how so many of those children in perhaps a traditional school might be ostracized or feel really segregated out, but here they can come and be really part of the norm, and geeking in science and STEM is considered really cool. So I love that there are some specialties that really cater to different needs of children.
Yes, and that's where I come in, because I work with 150 different schools on a regular basis. And my objective is to get to know the family, what is driving their decision, what their values are as a family, so the values meet with the school, whether they're looking for Christian ethos or some school that's going to support their Muslim faith, or different values in terms of academic priorities or sporting priorities, and match the right school to the right child. And we help them through the whole process into choosing the right school as well.
I love that, and I think it relates back to, how we believe in delivering, our service as Onyx Property Team on the real estate side. Mm-hmm. It's not just, about the bedrooms and bathrooms and things like that. It's really trying to understand your client, understand their needs, understand their timeline, and making sure you match the right person to the right property, or in your case, the right child to the right school, and holding their hand on that journey. So I hear some very strong similarities that add to the value you bring, right? It's not just about filling out an application and sending to every school. It's really trying to understand that family and then advising where might be the best matches be.
Yes, and I find the best matches are with the schools that really understand their international parents and understand their international markets, and particularly with West African families, knows what drives them and their high expectations. So I think the West African families expect a lot, quite rightly. They're paying a lot as well for school fees. So they expect a prompt and regular communication with the school about the child's progress, regular Zoom meetings, and kind of quality service. And so I work with those schools which understand that, but also I organise events in Nigeria 3 times a year and Ghana once or twice a year. So every school I work with, I've taken to Nigeria at some point or other, so they have first-hand experience of Nigeria and can relate to parents and relate to families. And
that's a real commitment. Yeah, I think that shows the dedication that somebody's willing to go travel, get on the ground there to see where people are coming from and those values and ideals that are important. So I love that you do that.
Yeah, and certainly the families appreciate it as well, because I'm taking 22 boarding schools with me in October to Nigeria, for example, which is a logistical, interesting challenge. It's a good job I've got 15 years experience of doing that, but there's always some new challenge to encounter, which is fun. But also the parents appreciate it because their child might have started at one of the schools in September, and they have a parents' meeting with the parents and the school, and kind of meet for kind of a reception on Friday evening or coffee on Sunday afternoon. And sometimes the families in Nigeria invite the head of the school for evening meal at their house, and it's real development of a relationship, like working together to support the family and support the school. So
well, there's nothing more precious than children, and then to send them out to the world. It is so important to have somebody guiding them and making sure that that fit is there. So and that the schools then value that relationship on a personal level as well.
Yeah, and to balance that out, also that the British boarding schools value the Nigerian students as well, because they're hardworking, they're brilliant at sport and music and drama and everything they turn their hand to. But they're such role models as well, because
you heard that, the leadership qualities,
Yeah, the leadership qualities is amazing. I did a survey, just a kind of hands-up survey with some heads, and the majority of heads had either currently or recently had a Nigerian as a head of school or a senior prefect, and they're really kind of a role model to the rest of the boarding community. So,
if we go a little bit broader out, where are schools located? Yesterday, again, we heard from schools all over. So tell us a little bit about logistically or geographically where schools might be located, or does there tend to be a cluster somewhere? Or, tell us a little bit more about, generally speaking, where schools might be located.
Well, to go to kind of the extremes of schools, we had a school from TRURO yesterday, TRURO High School for Girls, and that's in Cornwall, and that was a train journey away or an hour flight. We have schools right in the top of Scotland or in Edinburgh or further north. We have schools in Cardiff in Wales, or in Suffolk in East Anglia, or in Cambridge, and even schools we work with on the Isle of Man as well, so we go offshore a little bit as well. So the key issue is not where it is, but why it is. So Cardiff Sixth Form College in Wales is a couple of hours outside of London, but it's a top academic school for A-levels in the country. Or Gordonston, which is 2 hours north of Edinburgh, is a fantastic school where our current king went to, and it's well known for outdoor pursuits and kind of holistic education. TRURO High School for Girls is kind of a leader in engineering, science, technology and maths as well. So, and the school in Suffolk I'm thinking of, Colford School, is a leader in sport, kind of top football school and everything else. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, the diversity of the offerings is tremendous. As far as what is the process, how early should families be thinking about if they are considering sending their children abroad? How long does that journey usually take?
Ideally, we're looking at 2 years ahead. So we'd have an initial conversation, look at your son and daughter's school reports, and we would kind of meet the child as well, interview them, build up a profile, and get to know the family, and produce a long list of schools. They might want to have a Zoom meeting or visit in the UK. Now that's 2 years is ideal. 1 year is the norm. So we've had a lot of inquiries this summer for applications for entry next summer, 2024 entry in September. But I love the hard cases as well, which kind of, you have to think, I'm going to have to drop everything and just focus on this for a few days. So we had a family last week, 2 families last week who are looking for September entry.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and as we speak, September is tomorrow.
Yes. Wow.
And we placed them in fantastic schools within 5 days of in contacting us.
So this is not to encourage other people to wait a week before they submit, but it can be done.
It can be done. I'm well connected with schools that were literally, they created spaces for these children. And the father flew over from Lagos at the weekend and visited the school yesterday, completed their registration form and did the test with his son yesterday, and they're starting next week. Wow.
Well, that's incredible. That's a great testimony on that side. And so we've talked a little bit about the school. Now, if you bring the family into it, and are families often looking to relocate as well with the children or have a base here? What do you find is it a bit of a mix of both, or what are typically families willing to do in terms of following the children? Perhaps that's the question.
Yeah, I guess there's no typical family, but I think an increasing trend is twofold. Families moving from somewhere internationally, such as West Africa, to the UK, because it's easy to live in the UK. Exchange rates and devaluation isn't an issue either. So that's one benefit of moving to the UK, and they're near the child as well. I think the hybrid model is quite common, where a family would say, well, my child is going to be at boarding school for the next few years and probably at university in the UK. Let's buy a property to have as a bolt hole for the family during half terms and things. The mother might move over, or the father might move over for the first term while they're in the UK, and then kind of Lagos to London flight, red eye, kind of over the next few months as they do that, really. So I think the hybrid model is most common. And that's where you come in helping families to find the
we spoke to a
place.
family yesterday who was going to be considering that, and we definitely support families who are looking for a base, as you said, a bolt-on, and might have multiple children, obviously of different ages. And London, just because they might even have other children studying in the U.S. And London makes a lot of sense because between the U.S. and Nigeria or Africa or West Africa, London sits right in the middle, so it's actually very convenient flight-wise. As you said, those direct flights are quite easy, and time zone changes to West Africa is pretty much for half of the year the same. So yeah, it becomes a really good option, especially with the cycles, because in America we're more used to longer half terms, I guess, and then long summer breaks, whereas here children will be kind of off every few weeks or every 6 weeks. But I know some of the schools mentioned also that they don't send the children necessarily home. Is that right?
No, exactly. And that leads me to the second point very neatly, that sometimes families are saying, well, if we're going to be moving to the UK, we're actually looking for a day school, and a day school that does boarding. So if we do need to go to America for business for 3 weeks, they can go into the boarding school and do flexi boarding.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's really popular, and the boardings, those families choosing day places who actually have a boarding school as well, so day and boarding school, benefit because they pay day school fees, but pay an additional if the child stays over flexi boarding. But these schools have larger grounds, bigger facilities than day schools in central London, and they're getting a very good deal. And property is so for example, we work with Tassis, England, which is near 15 minutes from Heathrow, but the property is very much cheaper than kind of central London, and the family can live there, be part of the community of other parents, and come and go as they please. The benefits in multiple ways, really. But day schools in London are brilliant, and I've got they're hard to get places, but I know all the owners and all the schools, and we can leverage places as well.
So you can actually consult on placing children into the day school programs as well?
I do, yeah. I know all the owners and all the proprietors and businesses who own them, and know them very well.
So in final closing, is there any comments you would recommend or anything you would say if somebody is considering the boarding school option or looking to educate their children for some phase of their education in the UK?
I think the main advice I'd give is to allow time, prepare financially for the investment as well, talk to your wealth advisor or financial advisor. The second point is to visit, because you can't kind of assess something from meeting them at an event at the Wheat Baker in Lagos or an event in Ghana. You actually have to go and visit the school as well, and you really pick up what the ethos and values and USP of the school is by visiting, and we help arrange visits as well.
So obviously, if people are considering it, there would be immigration issues. So could you speak a little bit about that? How challenging is that, or what is kind of that process?
Well, it's not challenging, which is a good answer, which is very straightforward, but you need help. You can't do it on your own. So the wonderful news is that if you're looking for a boarding school place, the boarding schools are able to grant a Tier 4 student visa, and they can work with a family on that. And most schools have visa and immigration consultants they work with and pay the fees for as well to make the process very smooth. So they issue a cash statement and then help you with the whole process. Ideally, you'd have a year's school fees in your bank account 30 days before the visa application as well, to prove availability of funds to pay the school fees. So it's very straightforward on that. But if a family are thinking of moving as a whole to the UK and are looking to have British residency, then we work with immigration consultants who advise on that as well.
Yeah, they were in attendance. Just some of them were in attendance yesterday as well. The other thing we've touched a little bit on is the finance side of things. Now, some of the schools did mention scholarships, so could you speak to that a little bit, or the differences? You even heard about bursaries versus scholarships and things like that.
Yes, well, as we've hinted during the interview, West African students and international students are very highly prized in boarding schools because they bring so much. And if a child is talented at academically, sporting, music, or any other creative element, then they should be talking to the school about a scholarship. but we know the schools which offer the best scholarships, and we work with families in order to present their child in the best possible way, give the child interview practice, present a portfolio, write a CV with them as well, just to present the child in the best way and to get the best possible scholarship. Now, it's important to be realistic in the scholarship. You're not going to get 100% or 110%, but a little percentage off helps and goes a long way, especially with exchange rates as they are as well.
I can imagine. And again, I think you're speaking a little bit more to your service as well, and really just guiding them and making sure that that application being presented in the best possible light, you can help facilitate that, because you then know what the schools are looking for and can help them make sure that they're presenting themselves as effectively as possible.
Mm.
So obviously, if somebody wanted to connect with you, given that you are the consultant that can help facilitate all that, what kind of resources do they have, and how would you advise them to connect with you?
Well, we have a website, which is markbrookseducation.com, and it lists lots of schools we work with. There's information there. And as of last week, we launched the UK Boarding Schools Week magazine, which features 45 boarding schools and 35 video interviews with each of the heads as well. And that's free. You go to the website and click on that, and it's this browsable document you can look at from your laptop, any mobile device or iPad as well, and then contact us with to get information on each school as well. So that's new, and we're very excited about that.
That's great. You've also got a physical brochure, so we know that if people are here locally, we can get that out to you as well. Well, Mark, thank you so much. This has been, I think, a very helpful conversation for our audience. If you want to know more, Mark has given you his contact details. We'll have it in the descriptions as well. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if this is your first time on our channel, and make sure you hit that like button as well. If you want to know more about the London property market or all things about London, living in London, please get in touch. We'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel, where I share great tips and information about the London property market and living in this fabulous city. So that's Ugo Arinzeh with Onyx Property Team and Keller Williams. Bye for now.